Lily Bennett sat on the shiny marble floor of Oakwood Tower with her coloring books spread around her. She was a small girl with curly brown hair and bright green eyes that noticed everything. Today was not a normal day for Lily. Her school had closed early because of the big snowstorm, and her mom, Susan Bennett, had to bring her to work. Susan cleaned the offices at Oakwood Tower. It was the tallest building in the city and home to Montgomery Industries. Lily knew her mom worked very hard. Susan was a single mother who took on extra shifts whenever she could to make sure Lily had everything she needed. "Remember to stay in this corner of the lobby, sweetie," Susan told Lily as she prepared her cleaning cart. "I'll check on you every 30 minutes. If you need anything, Betty at the front desk can help you." Lily nodded and focused on her coloring. She was working on a picture of a heart for her science class. Last week, a nurse had visited their school and taught them about the human body. Lily found it all very interesting, especially the part about the heart and how it pumped blood to keep people alive. The lobby of Oakwood Tower was busy with people in fancy suits walking quickly, talking on phones, and carrying important-looking folders. No one paid attention to the little girl coloring quietly in the corner except for Betty, the kind receptionist who smiled at Lily from time to time. Around 3 o'clock, the lobby became even busier. Lily looked up from her coloring when she heard people speaking in hushed, excited voices. They straightened their clothes and stood taller. She noticed that everyone was looking at the elevator doors. When the elevator opened, a tall man with gray hair stepped out. He wore the fanciest suit Lily had ever seen. People moved out of his way and nodded respectfully as he passed. Lily heard someone whisper, "Mr. Montgomery himself, he rarely comes down to the lobby." Lily watched the important man with curiosity. He walked with big steps and didn't smile at anyone. He looked stern and serious. But as he crossed the lobby, Lily noticed something strange. The man's face suddenly changed color. It became grayish, like the sky before a storm. Large drops of sweat appeared on his forehead even though the lobby was cold from the winter air outside. Then Lily saw the man grab his left arm and squeeze it tight. His face twisted in pain, and he slowed down. No one else seemed to notice because they were all looking down at the floor or at their phones when he passed. Lily's mind flashed back to what the nurse at school had taught them. If you ever see someone with a gray face who is sweating a lot and holding their chest or arm, they might be having a heart attack. This is an emergency and you need to call for help right away. The billionaire took 2 more steps and started to sway. Lily jumped up, her coloring book sliding to the floor. "Help!" she shouted, her voice echoing in the tall lobby. "The man is having a heart attack. Please help him." Everyone looked up confused. Mr. Montgomery's knees buckled and he started to fall. "He needs help," Lily shouted again, running toward him. "Call 911. He's having a heart attack." The security guards finally understood what was happening and rushed forward. One caught Mr. Montgomery just before he hit the floor. The lobby erupted in chaos. People gathered around, some pulling out phones to call for help, others backing away in fear. Lily pushed through the crowd of adults. "Lay him flat on his back," she said loudly, remembering the nurse's instructions, "and loosen his tie and collar." The security guard looked surprised to be taking orders from a 6-year-old, but he did as Lily said. Betty from the front desk was already on the phone with emergency services. "A heart attack," Lily heard Betty say. "Yes, in the lobby of Oakwood Tower. Please hurry." Lily knelt beside the pale man. His eyes were open and he looked scared. She took his hand and said, "Don't worry, sir. Help is coming. My name is Lily. I'm staying right here with you." The man tried to speak but couldn't. His grip on Lily's small hand tightened. Susan rushed into the lobby with her cleaning cart and gasped when she saw her daughter kneeling beside the fallen billionaire. "Lily, what are you doing?" she called out, hurrying over. "Mom, it's Mr. Montgomery. He's having a heart attack," Lily explained calmly. "I remembered what Nurse Paula taught us at school." The building's medical team arrived with a first aid kit and a defibrillator. They quickly took over, but one of them turned to Lily with a surprised look. "Who recognized the heart attack symptoms?" he asked. "She did," said the security guard, pointing to Lily. "The little girl spotted it before any of us." The medical worker looked at Lily with respect. "You did the right thing. You may have just saved his life." The paramedics arrived 5 minutes later. They worked quickly, putting Mr. Montgomery on a stretcher and attaching monitors to his chest. One of them confirmed what Lily had recognized. Richard Montgomery was indeed having a major heart attack. As they wheeled him out to the ambulance, Mr. Montgomery's eyes found Lily again. He reached out his hand weakly and Lily stepped forward to take it. "Thank you," he whispered before they took him away. The lobby remained silent for a moment after the ambulance left. Then people started talking all at once. Several staff members approached Lily and Susan. "That was Richard Montgomery, the owner of this entire building and one of the richest men in the country," said one woman in a business suit. "How did your daughter know what was happening?" Susan put her arm around Lily protectively. "They had a first aid lesson at school last week," she explained, still looking shocked. The building manager came down to the lobby after hearing what happened. He shook Lily's hand formally as if she were an adult. "Young lady, what you did today was extraordinary. Mr. Montgomery is not just our boss. He's one of the most important businessmen in America. The doctor who just called from the ambulance said that without your quick action, he might not have survived." Lily didn't fully understand why everyone was making such a big deal. She had just done what the nurse at school had taught them to do. "Is he going to be okay?" she asked. "They think so, thanks to you," the manager said. "They got to him very quickly because of your warning." News traveled fast. By the time Susan finished her shift, reporters were waiting outside the building. The story of how a 6-year-old janitor's daughter saved a billionaire's life was too good to ignore. Susan tried to shield Lily from the cameras and questions, but a few photographs were taken as they left the building. That night in their small apartment, Lily and her mother watched the local news. Lily's face appeared on the screen, and the reporter called her the smallest hero in the city. The hospital had released a statement saying that Richard Montgomery was in stable condition after emergency surgery, and that doctors credited his survival to the unusually quick response time. Susan hugged her daughter tight. "I'm so proud of you, Lily. You were so brave today." Lily smiled but looked thoughtful. "Mom, do you think I can visit Mr. Montgomery in the hospital? I want to make sure he's really okay." Susan hesitated. Richard Montgomery was known for being a private, often difficult man. The idea of visiting him seemed impossible. "I don't know, sweetheart. He's a very important and busy person. But he was scared," Lily said simply. "I promised I'd stay with him." 3 days later, to Susan's great surprise, they received a call from Mr. Montgomery's personal assistant. The billionaire had asked to meet the child who saved his life. A car would pick them up the next day to take them to the private hospital where he was recovering. Lily picked out her favorite dress for the visit and carefully made a get well card with a big red heart on the front. As the luxury car sent by Mr. Montgomery drove them through the city, Lily looked out the window with excitement. She had no idea that this visit would be the beginning of a connection that would change her life forever. The car pulled up to a side entrance of the hospital where a man in a suit was waiting for them. "Miss Bennett and Ms. Bennett," he said, formally. "Mr. Montgomery is expecting you. Please follow me." Lily held her mother's hand as they walked through the quiet hallways of the expensive hospital. She didn't know it yet, but on the other side of the door they were approaching was a man whose life and perspective had been completely transformed by his brush with death, and by the pure-hearted child who had saved him. The hospital room was larger than Lily's entire apartment. Sunlight streamed through big windows and beautiful flowers filled every corner. Richard Montgomery sat up in bed, looking much better than he had in the lobby. His face had color now, and his eyes were alert. Still, Lily noticed tubes connected to his arm and beeping machines beside his bed. When Lily and Susan entered the room, Mr. Montgomery's stern face softened. He was a man in his 60s, with silver hair and deep lines around his eyes. Most people found him scary, but Lily only saw the same worried look she had noticed in the lobby. "So you're my little hero," he said, his voice rough but gentle. "Come closer, please." Lily walked to the edge of his bed while Susan stayed by the door, nervous in the presence of such a powerful man. "I made you a card," Lily said, holding out her handmade creation. It has a heart on it because the nurse at school said hearts are very important. Mr. Montgomery took the card carefully as if it were made of gold instead of construction paper. He opened it and read Lily's simple message. Get well soon. Your heart is important. From Lily. Something unusual happened then. The stern billionaire's eyes filled with tears. He quickly wiped them away, but both Lily and Susan had seen them. Thank you, Lily, he said quietly. The doctors told me what you did. They said you recognized the signs of a heart attack when none of the adults around. Me did. How did you know? Lily smiled proudly. We had a special class at school. Nurse Paula taught us about hearts and what to do in emergencies. She said if someone looks gray and sweaty and holds their arm or chest, they might be having a heart attack. Mr. Montgomery nodded slowly. And you remembered all that? Yes, sir, it was important. The billionaire looked at Susan, who still stood awkwardly by the door. Ms. Bennett, please come in. I understand you work in my building. Susan stepped forward nervously. Yes, sir. I'm part of the cleaning staff. I've worked there for 4 years now. And you were working when your daughter was at the building? Susan's cheeks turned red. Yes, sir. I'm sorry about that. The school closed early because of the snowstorm and I couldn't find anyone to watch Lily. I don't usually bring her to work. Mr. Montgomery waved away her worry. Please don't apologize. If Lily hadn't been there, I wouldn't be alive today. He looked back at Lily. The doctors said I had what they call a widowmaker heart attack. Very serious. If help had been delayed even 5 more minutes, I probably wouldn't have survived. Lily frowned at this scary information. Are you going to be okay now? Yes. Thanks to you. The doctors put a small tube in my heart to keep the blood flowing properly. He pointed to his chest. I'll need to rest and make some changes in my life, but I should recover fully. A nurse entered the room with a tray of medicine. I'm sorry, Mr. Montgomery, but I need to do your checkup now. Your visitors might want to come back later. Just a moment, Mr. Montgomery said firmly. He reached for a small button on the side of his bed and pressed it. Almost immediately, a tall man in a suit entered the room. This is Frank, my assistant, Mr. Montgomery explained. Frank, I want you to take down Ms. Bennett's contact information, and I want you to arrange something special for Lily. Frank nodded and took out his phone. Susan nervously gave him her phone number and address. What do you like to do, Lily? Mr. Montgomery asked. What makes you happy? Lily thought for a moment. I like to learn things, and I like to help people. That's why I want to be a doctor when I grow up. Mr. Montgomery smiled slightly. It looked like his face wasn't used to smiling. A doctor, that's a fine goal. We should go now, Susan said, taking Lily's hand. Thank you for seeing us, Mr. Montgomery. We're very glad you're recovering well. As they turned to leave, Mr. Montgomery called out, Lily, wait. When she looked back, he said, Thank you for staying with me when I was scared. It helped. Lily nodded seriously. You're welcome. Outside the hospital, the same fancy car waited to take them home. As they drove through the city, Lily chatted excitedly about the big hospital room and how Mr. Montgomery had liked her card. Susan listened with a distracted smile, wondering what the billionaire had meant by arranging something special for Lily. She didn't have to wonder long. The very next day, a large package arrived at their apartment. Inside was a brand new tablet, computer with a note that read, For Lily's education. This has special learning programs about medicine and first aid. Thank you again. RM. Lily was thrilled with the gift, but it was only the beginning. 3 days later, Frank called Susan. Ms. Bennett, Mr. Montgomery would like to speak with you about an important matter. He's been released from the hospital and would like to meet with you and Lily tomorrow at his office if possible. Susan was confused but agreed to the meeting. The next day, she took time off work, and she and Lily rode the elevator to the top floor of Oakwood Tower, a place Susan had cleaned but never visited as a guest. Mr. Montgomery's office was enormous, with windows that showed the entire city. He greeted them warmly, looking much stronger than he had in the hospital. He wore a casual sweater instead of his usual suit. Please sit down, he said. gesturing to comfortable chairs. "I've been doing a lot of thinking since my heart attack." Susan and Lily sat down, feeling out of place in the grand office. "I'm 62 years old," Mr. Montgomery continued. "I have no wife, no children, no real family. I've spent my life building my company and making money. But when I was lying in that hospital bed, I realized something important. None of that matters if you're alone." He looked directly at Lily. "Your kindness and quick thinking saved my life. But you also showed me something I've been missing: purpose beyond profit." Mr. Montgomery stood up and walked to the window. "I've made some decisions. First, I'm creating a new foundation that will teach children about health and emergency response. I want to make sure every child has the knowledge you had, Lily." He turned back to face them. "The foundation needs a name. I'm calling it the Montgomery Bennett Foundation." Susan gasped. "Bennett? As in our name?" "Yes. I want Lily's contribution to be remembered." He smiled at Lily. "And I'd like you, Ms. Bennett, to help run it." Susan's mouth fell open. "Me? But I'm a janitor. I don't know anything about running a foundation." "You know your community. You know what families like yours need. You can learn the rest." Mr. Montgomery sat back down. "I'm offering you a job as the foundation's community outreach director. The salary is 3 times what you make now, with full benefits." Susan couldn't speak. This would change everything for them. A steady job with good pay, no more worrying about bills or taking extra shifts. "There's more," Mr. Montgomery continued. "I want to make sure Lily gets the best education possible. I'm arranging for her to attend Oak Hill Academy, the best private school in the city. All expenses paid through a special scholarship program I'm creating." Lily's eyes widened. "Will I learn more about being a doctor there?" Mr. Montgomery nodded. "They have excellent science programs, and I'll arrange for you to meet real doctors who can teach you even more." He leaned forward, his face serious. "I've been given a second chance at life. I don't want to waste it. Helping you and other children like you gives me a purpose I never had before." Susan finally found her voice. "This is too much, Mr. Montgomery. We can't accept all this." "Please call me Richard," he said. "And yes, you can accept it. This isn't charity. It's an investment in the future. In Lily's future and in all the lives she'll save when she becomes a doctor." He looked at Lily with genuine warmth. "What do you say, Lily? Will you let me help you the way you helped me?" Lily thought for a moment, then nodded seriously. "Yes, but only if you promise to take care of your heart. No more heart attacks." Richard Montgomery laughed, a sound his employees rarely heard. "I promise to try my best." As Susan and Lily left the office that day, neither of them could believe how much their lives had changed in just 1 week, all because Lily had paid attention in class and had the courage to speak up when she saw someone in trouble. What they didn't know yet was that this was just the beginning of the changes to come. The bond formed between the little girl and the billionaire would grow stronger in the years ahead, transforming not just their lives but the lives of countless others. 4 years had passed since the day Lily saved Richard Montgomery's life. Now 10 years old, Lily had grown taller, but her bright green eyes and curious nature remained the same. Her life, however, had changed completely. Lily now attended Oak Hill Academy, where she wore a neat uniform and studied in classrooms with smartboards and science labs. She was at the top of her class, especially in science and health subjects. The other students had been surprised at first by the special attention Lily received from the school's biggest donor, but they had grown used to seeing Richard Montgomery at school events, always saving a seat for Lily and her mother. Susan Bennett's life had transformed too. As the community outreach director for the Montgomery Bennett Foundation, she worked in a bright office on the 15th floor of Oakwood Tower. Her job was to find schools and neighborhoods that needed health education programs. She visited these places herself, talking to families and teachers about what they needed. Susan and Lily had moved from their small apartment to a comfortable house closer to Lily's school. Susan no longer worried about paying bills or taking extra shifts. Richard Montgomery had changed the most. His doctors had warned him to reduce stress and take better care of his health. Instead of just slowing down, he had found a new purpose. The man once known for tough business deals now spent much of his time visiting schools, teaching children about heart health and building his foundation. He smiled more. He listened more. His employees hardly recognized their boss. On a sunny Saturday morning in spring, Lily sat in Richard's large home office. Large windows showed the city skyline, and bookshelves lined the walls. Richard sat behind his desk while Lily worked on a school project at a smaller desk he had added just for her. "How's the project coming along?" Richard asked, looking up. From his computer, Lily showed him her poster about the human heart. "Almost done. I added the information about how exercise keeps hearts healthy." Richard nodded with approval. "Excellent. That's very important." The door opened, and Susan came in carrying a tray with tea for Richard and juice for Lily. In the 4 years they had known each other, Susan had become comfortable in Richard's large penthouse apartment. She still called him Mr. Montgomery at work, but here on weekends he was simply Richard. "The mayor's office called," Susan said, setting down the tray. "They want you both at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new health center next week." Richard smiled at Lily. "What do you think? Ready for another public appearance?" Lily nodded. She had gotten used to standing beside Richard at events for their foundation. At first, the cameras and reporters had scared her, but now she understood how important it was to share their message. "I think we should invite my class," Lily suggested. "They just finished their first aid training." "Good idea," Richard said. "Susan, can you arrange that?" Susan made a note on her tablet. Already on it, the Montgomery Bennett Foundation had grown bigger than any of them had expected. What started as a simple idea to teach children about health emergencies had expanded into a national program. They had built health centers in poor neighborhoods, created training programs for schools, and even developed a phone app that taught kids how to respond in emergencies. The story of how a little girl saved a billionaire had touched people's hearts, and donations poured in from across the country. After Susan left the room, Richard became serious. "Lily, I wanted to talk to you about something important." Lily put down her markers and gave him her full attention. In the years they had known each other, she had learned that Richard never wasted words. "The doctors found something during my last checkup," he said carefully. "Nothing to worry about right now, but I need to take extra care of my heart." Lily frowned. "Are you going to be okay?" "Yes, but I need to make some changes. Less work, more rest." He looked at her directly. "I'm going to step back from some of my companies, but I want to spend more time with the foundation, with you and your mother." Lily understood what he wasn't saying. Richard was worried about his health. In the 4 years since his heart attack, he had become like family to Lily and Susan. The thought of him being sick again scared her. "We should add more vegetables to your lunch," Lily said seriously. "And maybe you should walk in the park with me every day, not just on weekends." Richard chuckled. "You sound just like my doctors." "That's because I'm going to be a doctor someday," Lily reminded him. This had been her dream since before she met Richard, but now she was certain. She wanted to be a heart doctor who could help people like him. "I have no doubt about that," Richard said. "Which reminds me, I've been thinking about your education. Oak Hill is an excellent school, but there's a special summer program at the university hospital for students interested in medicine. It's usually for high school students, but I think they might make an exception for you." Lily's eyes widened with excitement. "A real hospital? With real doctors?" "Real doctors, real medical students, and real learning opportunities," Richard confirmed. "It would be every Saturday during the summer. Your mother already said it's okay if you want to do it." Lily jumped up and hugged Richard. These moments of physical affection had been awkward at first. Richard hadn't hugged anyone in years before meeting Lily. Now he returned her hug naturally. Thank you," Lily said. "Don't thank me yet," Richard warned with a smile. "It will be hard work. Medical science isn't easy." "I'm not afraid of hard work," Lily said confidently. Later that afternoon, as Susan drove Lily home, they talked about the summer program and the upcoming ribbon-cutting ceremony. Their lives now revolved around events and opportunities that would have seemed impossible 4 years ago. "Mom," Lily said suddenly, "do you think Richard is really okay? He seemed worried about his checkup." Susan chose her words carefully. His heart was badly damaged by the heart attack. The doctors always said he would need to be careful, but he's doing everything right. Taking his medicine, eating better, exercising, and reducing stress. "I don't want him to get sick again," Lily said quietly. Susan reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. "I know, sweetie. Richard has become very important to us, hasn't he?" Lily nodded. What had started as a chance encounter had grown into a deep connection. Richard had no children of his own and no family left. Somehow Lily and Susan had filled that empty space in his life, and he had filled the space left by Lily's father, who had left when she was a baby. "He's coming to my science fair next month, right?" Lily asked. "He wouldn't miss it," Susan assured her. "He's already changed 3 business meetings to be there." The next week, at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new health center, Lily stood proudly between Richard and her mother. Cameras flashed as the mayor handed Richard the big scissors to cut the ribbon. Richard looked down at Lily and handed her the scissors instead. "This should be done by the person who inspired it all," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. With Susan's help, Lily cut the red ribbon. The crowd cheered, and the doors to the new Montgomery Bennett Health Center opened for the first time. Inside, children from poor neighborhoods would learn about health and safety. They would practice CPR on training dummies. They would learn to recognize the signs of emergencies just as Lily had done 4 years ago. As they walked through the new building, Richard kept his hand on Lily's shoulder. He moved more slowly than he used to, and sometimes he needed to sit and rest. But his eyes were bright with purpose as he watched Lily explain the heart model to her classmates. "She's going to change the world someday," he said quietly to Susan. Susan nodded. "She already changed yours." "And mine changed hers," Richard replied. "I think that's how the best stories work." 5 more years passed. Lily Bennett was now 15 years old, a tall teenager with the same observant green eyes that had once spotted a billionaire's heart attack. She still attended Oak Hill Academy, where she excelled in all her classes, especially the sciences. Her dream of becoming a doctor had only grown stronger with time. Richard Montgomery, now in his early 70s, had kept his promise to focus on his health. His silver hair had turned completely white, and he walked more slowly, often using a cane. But his mind remained sharp, and his dedication to the foundation never wavered. The Montgomery Bennett Foundation had expanded to cities across the country, teaching millions of children about health emergencies and saving countless lives. Susan Bennett had become a respected leader in community health education. She traveled frequently, speaking at conferences and meeting with government officials to expand their programs. The shy janitor who had once worried about being seen in the lobby of Oakwood Tower now confidently directed a staff of 50 people. On a crisp fall morning, Lily sat in the kitchen of Richard's penthouse apartment surrounded by textbooks. She had a major biology exam coming up, and Richard had offered to help her study. Though he wasn't a doctor, his years of supporting medical research had given him considerable knowledge. "The circulatory system," Richard said, "consists of the heart, blood vessels, and blood," Lily finished. "And it has 3 types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries." Richard nodded approvingly. "Excellent. And what's the difference between them?" Lily recited the information confidently. "Arteries carry blood away from the heart. Veins carry blood back to the heart. Capillaries connect arteries and veins and allow the exchange of oxygen, nutrients, and waste." "Perfect," Richard said. "You're going to ace this exam." Susan entered the kitchen, carrying a folder of papers. "Good morning, you two. Hard at work already?" "Lily knows this material better than her teacher," Richard said proudly. Susan smiled at her daughter. "I have no doubt. But take a break now. Breakfast is ready." Richard's personal chef had prepared a healthy meal of whole grain pancakes, fresh, fruit, and yogurt. The 3 of them sat at the kitchen table, a weekend routine they had established years ago. "I have some exciting news," Richard said as they ate. The Foundation's new research program has been approved. We'll be funding 10 medical students who want to specialize in emergency cardiac care. Susan looked up from her plate. That's wonderful. When does it start? Next fall, Richard said. And I've made sure that in 3 years, when Lily is ready for medical school, there will be a spot waiting for her if she wants it. Lily nearly dropped her fork. Really? You did that for me? Richard's eyes twinkled. Well, you did save my life. It seems only fair that I help you save others. Lily jumped up and hugged him. Though she was now almost as tall as Richard, she still showed her excitement like the 6-year-old who had made him a construction paper heart card. After breakfast, Susan went to her home office to prepare for an upcoming trip. Richard and Lily moved to the living room to continue studying. There's something else I wanted to discuss with you, Richard said, his tone more serious. It's about the future. Lily closed her textbook, giving him her full attention. My doctors say I'm doing well, but at my age it's important to plan ahead. Richard adjusted his position on the sofa, wincing slightly from arthritis pain. I've been working with my lawyers to update my will and make arrangements for the foundation. Lily felt a twist of worry in her stomach. She didn't like to think about a time when Richard wouldn't be there. The foundation is my legacy, Richard continued. I want to make sure it continues long after I'm gone. That's why I've decided to establish a special trust to fund it permanently. That's a good idea, Lily said quietly. There's more, Richard added. I've named your mother as the future head of the foundation. And when you finish medical school, if you're interested, I want you to lead the medical research division, silly. Stared at him in shock. Me? But that's years away. I don't even have my high school diploma yet. Richard smiled gently. I believe in planning ahead. And I believe in you, Lily. You have the mind of a scientist and the heart of a healer. That's a rare combination. Lily felt tears forming in her eyes. Richard had changed her life in so many ways, giving her educational opportunities, supporting her dreams, becoming a father figure she had never had. The thought of disappointing him was unbearable. What if I'm not good enough? She whispered. Richard reached out and took her hand. You were good enough to save my life when you were only 6. You've been exceeding expectations ever since. Have no doubts about your abilities. Later that day, Richard had an appointment with his cardiologist. He insisted on going alone, as he always did, but promised to share any important news. While he was gone, Lily helped Susan organize materials for her upcoming presentation in Washington, D.C. Mom, Lily said as they worked, do you ever think about how different our lives would be if I hadn't been at the tower that day? Susan looked up from her laptop. I think about it often. We'd still be in our small apartment. I'd still be cleaning offices. You'd be at the public school, which was fine, but you wouldn't have had all these opportunities. And Richard would probably be. Lily couldn't finish the sentence. Yes, Susan said softly. The doctors were very clear about that. Without immediate help, he wouldn't have survived. It's strange how one moment can change everything, Lily mused. Susan closed her laptop and looked directly at her daughter. It wasn't just one moment, though. Yes, you recognized his heart attack and called for help. That was extraordinary. But what came after? The foundation, the health centers, the education programs, that happened because all 3 of us chose to build something together. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Richard could have just given us money and moved on. And we could have taken it and gone on with our lives, Susan added. Instead, we created something bigger than ourselves. When Richard returned from his appointment, he found Lily and Susan in the kitchen preparing dinner. His face looked tired but peaceful. Good news, he announced. My heart is stable. No changes since last time. Lily let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Each checkup brought the same worry, that Richard's damaged heart might be getting worse. The doctor said I'm doing better than expected for someone who had such a severe heart attack, Richard continued. He credited my excellent health team at home. He winked at Lily, who had been monitoring his diet and exercise routine for years. That evening, as they ate dinner together, Richard shared stories from the early days of his company. He rarely talked about his life before meeting Lily and Susan, but tonight he seemed in a reflective mood. I was so focused on success, he admitted, making more money, beating competitors, expanding the business. I thought that was what mattered. And now? Lily asked. Richard gestured around the table. Now I know what really matters. Making a difference. Having people who care about you. Leaving the world better than you found it. Susan raised her glass of water. To second chances. To second chances, Richard and Lily echoed. As the evening ended and Susan prepared to drive Lily home, Richard gave Lily a small box. This is for you. A little early for your birthday, but I wanted you to have it now. Inside the box was a beautiful silver necklace with a small heart-shaped pendant. Engraved on the back were the words, "You saved more than one heart. RM." Lily hugged Richard tightly, understanding the double meaning. She had saved his physical heart that day in the lobby, but she had also helped heal his emotional heart, bringing warmth and purpose to a life that had been cold and lonely. "Thank you for everything," she whispered. "No, Lily," Richard replied. "Thank you. For everything." 6 more years passed. Lily Bennett, now 21 years old, stood on the stage in her graduation cap and gown. The university auditorium was filled with proud families watching their children graduate from medical school. Lily had worked harder than she ever thought possible to reach this day, finishing her undergraduate studies early and being accepted into an accelerated medical program. In the front row sat Susan Bennett, elegant in a blue dress, her eyes shining with tears of joy. Beside her was Richard Montgomery, now 78 years old. His white hair was thinner and he needed help walking up the stairs to his seat, but his eyes were bright and alert as ever. He watched Lily with immense pride as she accepted her diploma. After the ceremony, families gathered outside for pictures. Susan hugged her daughter tightly. "Your father would have been so proud of you today," she whispered. Lily nodded. Though she had few memories of her birth father, who had left when she was a baby, she often thought about him on important days like this. Richard approached them slowly, leaning on his cane. Age and heart problems had weakened his body, but not his spirit. He embraced Lily carefully. "Dr. Bennett," he said with a smile. "It has a nice ring to it," Lily laughed. "Not quite yet. I still have my residency to complete." "Just a technicality," Richard said, waving his hand dismissively. "You're already a doctor in my eyes." They made their way to a restaurant near the university where Richard had reserved a private room for a celebration lunch. Several of Lily's friends joined them, along with key staff from the Montgomery Bennett Foundation. During the meal, Richard tapped his glass for attention. Though his voice was softer than it had been years ago, the room fell silent immediately. Everyone respected the man who had built one of the most successful health education foundations in the country. 15 years ago, Richard began, I was a very different person. I ran my companies with an iron fist. I had wealth and power, but little else. No real friends, no family, no purpose beyond making money. He looked at Lily with affection. Then one day, a 6-year-old girl saw what no one else did. She saw a man having a heart attack, and she spoke up. She saved my life. Richard paused, collecting his emotions. But Lily didn't just save my life that day. She changed it. She showed me what really matters. Thanks to her, the Montgomery Bennett Foundation has taught emergency response to over 5 million children. We've opened health centers in 30 cities. We've funded research that has improved cardiac care across the country. He raised his glass. Today, that little girl becomes Dr. Lily Bennett. I couldn't be prouder if she were my own daughter. Tears slipped down Lily's cheeks as everyone raised their glasses. In many ways, Richard had become a father to her over the years. He had guided her, supported her, and believed in her, even when she doubted herself. After lunch, Richard handed Lily an envelope. Your graduation present, he explained. Open it when you're alone. Later that evening, in the quiet of her apartment, Lily opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and several legal documents. The letter, written in Richard's now shaky handwriting, read, My dear Lily, congratulations on this wonderful achievement. From the moment you saved my life, I knew you were destined to save many more. To help you on this journey, I have established the Bennett Cardiac Care Center at Central Hospital, where you will begin your residency next month. The center will focus on emergency cardiac response and treatment, combining the best of modern medicine with the education programs our foundation has developed. I have arranged for you to have a position there after you complete your residency if you wish. This center is my gift to you, but also to all the future patients whose lives you will save. With love and pride, Richard. Lily sat on her sofa, stunned by the magnitude of the gift. A whole cardiac center bearing her family name. It was beyond anything she had imagined. The next morning, Lily drove to Richard's penthouse apartment. Though she now had her own place, she still visited Richard several times a week, especially since his health had begun to decline more rapidly in the past year. She found him sitting by the window, looking out at the city. He smiled when she entered. "I see you got my gift," he said. Lily sat beside him. "Richard, it's too much. A whole cardiac center?" He shook his head firmly. "Nothing is too much. Do you know how many lives the foundation has saved in 15 years? Thousands. And now, with you leading the medical side of our work, we'll save thousands more." Lily took his hand, noting how thin and fragile it felt. "Thank you. I promise. I'll make you proud." "You already have," Richard said simply. Over the next few weeks, Lily divided her time between preparing for her residency and visiting the new Bennett Cardiac Care Center, which was still under construction. Richard insisted on accompanying her on these visits, despite his doctor's advice to rest more. On a warm summer day, they stood together at the construction site, wearing hard hats as they reviewed the building plans with the architect. "The education wing will be here," Richard explained, pointing to the blueprint. "We'll teach children, parents, teachers, anyone who wants to learn how to recognize and respond to heart emergencies. Just like I did," Lily said softly. "Exactly like you did," Richard agreed. "Your story will be part of the training program, a reminder that anyone, even a child, can save a life if they know what to look for." As they walked back to the car, Richard suddenly stopped, putting his hand on Lily's arm for support. "Are you okay?" she asked, instantly alert to any signs of distress. Richard smiled reassuringly. "Just tired. It's been a busy day." But Lily noticed the slight gray tinge to his complexion, the sweat on his forehead despite the mild temperature. She recognized the signs immediately, just as she had 15 years ago. "Richard, I think you need to sit down," she said calmly, guiding him to a nearby bench. She took his wrist, checking his pulse while pulling out her phone with her other hand. "I'm calling an ambulance," she said firmly. Richard didn't argue, which worried her even more. He always insisted he was fine, even when he wasn't. "History, repeating itself," he murmured with a weak smile. "You saving me again, and I'll keep saving you as long as I can," Lily promised, her medical training kicking in as she loosened his tie and helped him into a more comfortable position. The ambulance arrived quickly. As the paramedics loaded Richard onto a stretcher, he held onto Lily's hand. "Stay with me?" he asked, echoing the words she had said to him 15 years ago in the lobby of Oakwood Tower. "Always," Lily replied, climbing into the ambulance beside him. 3 days later, Richard was back home, resting, in his apartment. The doctors had adjusted his medication and recommended more rest, but confirmed that Lily's quick action had prevented another major heart attack. Susan and Lily sat with him in his living room, just as they had countless times over the years. "You?" "No," Richard said thoughtfully. "Most people don't get second chances in life. I got mine when a little girl noticed me having a heart attack. That changed everything." "For all of us," Susan added. Richard nodded. "And now we're changing things. For others. The foundation, the health centers, the new cardiac center, all because of that one moment." Lily looked at the two people who had shaped her life in such unexpected ways. Her mother, who had taught her compassion and determination, and Richard, who had shown her the power of purpose and giving back. "One moment can change a life," Lily said. "But what we do with all the moments that follow, that's what really matters." Richard smiled at the young doctor beside him, seeing both the little girl who had saved him and the remarkable woman she had become. "Indeed," he said quietly, "and I couldn't have spent my moments any better than with you two." As the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow through the windows, the three of them sat together, connected by a single moment of awareness that had changed everything, and by all the moments they had chosen to share since then.